Hi, I'm Mandy, and I'm here to tell you about the time my mom found out I was pretty and sold me to a modeling agency. But before anything else, subscribe to the channel, give this video a thumbs up, and click that notification bell icon to show your support for me. I grew up a tomboy, and, well, not ugly, but not turning any heads around school either. My mother was a typical girly girl, focused only on beauty, makeup, and making herself look good. When puberty came knocking, I was terrified of what the future would hold. One by one, my friends turned from ducklings into swans, and I was worried they would soon leave me in the dust. To everyone's surprise, I turned from duckling to swan to angel, all in the span of a few years. For the first time in my life, people started to notice me, and since I never got much attention before, it was actually a little bit unsettling. My mother, of course, immediately began to take an interest in me, and soon I found myself accompanying her to the mall for even the smallest errands. Suddenly, she was proud to show off her daughter to the world. It kinda creeped me out, and I really didn't want to have the spotlight on me all the time. But it seemed to make her happy, so I went along with it. One day when we were sitting at a boutique to get our nails done, our nail technician asked if I had already gotten myself an agent. "Agent?" I asked, not knowing what she meant. "Like a manager. Aren't you a model?" asked the nail tech. "My daughter? A model?" said my mother, clearly unsurprised but feigning shock anyway. "Well, I may have an excellent opportunity for you then," the nail technician said, gesturing with her nail file. "I happen to know a talent scout from one of the leading modeling agencies in the world, and I think he may be interested in what your little girl here has to offer." Excuse me, ma'am, but really, do you really think I have a shot at being a model?" I asked. "Look, baby girl, you're, 17? You could be looking at the big time," the nail technician said as she inspected our nails before handing my mother a business card. "Think about it," she said just as we were leaving the shop. On the way home, my mother brought up the modeling gig. "Well, are you going to call that number?" she asked, grinning from ear to ear. I could tell that this wasn't a question so much as an instruction, so I figured it had been fun playing dress-up with my mom. Maybe modeling wouldn't be so bad. As we sat down for dinner that evening, she informed me that she called the number on the card before I could. She said she'd spoken to Leonard from the Cottontail Modeling Agency and had sent through some photos of me. I was furious that she jumped the gun. I was beginning to wonder if it really was a good idea. When she added "and he said everything's in order, and that they'd like for you to come in for a look-see. Provided that you pass their standards, you could start tomorrow." "Gee, thanks, Mom," I said, knowing that ultimately I had no choice. The next day was the first day of hell. A man in a fancy black SUV picked me up in front of our house as a school bus passed, and all my friends saw me getting into the SUV. I wondered what my classmates were going to think. We arrived at the agency. The moment Leonard laid his eyes on me, he was seeing dollar signs. He immediately arranged for me to do a shoot by the beach. When we arrived at the shoot, my mouth dropped. Sprawled on the beach were some of the prettiest girls I had ever seen in my entire life. I suddenly felt so humbled in their presence. When I walked over, their facial expressions changed from that of smiles to upturned noses. I thought, wait, do I smell bad? I showered. Do they hate me? What I found out as I met them shocked me. A girl named Amanda introduced herself, and all of the other girls told me I was now legally the property of the modeling company. And according to the law, the owner of the company, some guy called Luzano, was now my father. "We're all adopted sisters in the company, and we're all expected to contribute to the family," one girl, whose name was Susan, said. I sank to my knees in the sand and tried to process what was happening. Did my own mother really sell me to a modeling company? How could she be so ruthless, I thought. "Oh, honey, I know that look. Your mama sold you, huh?" Angela asked. "Sweetheart, she was probably paid millions. The company's best lawyers make sure that the contract's binding. There's no way out now," added Susan. "Same thing happened to all of us." The rest of the girls all nodded in agreement. Before I had any more time to think, I was whisked aside to a freestanding booth set up on the beach for quick changing. A makeup team started to savagely attack my face with brushes, clippers, and all manner of obscure instruments, and before I knew it, standing in front of me in the mirror was somebody much, much prettier. "Holy shit," I whispered. I had no idea I could ever look like that. I was still stunned by my reflection when a large man came over and attached a literal ball and chain to my foot. Great, I thought. Even if I wanted to escape, there's no way to run now. I looked down at the other model's feet and realized that I was the only one that had this latest accessory. "They only give those to the newbies," a girl I came to know as Rue told me. "They don't want you escaping or anything, she said. "Smile! Jump! Find your light!" screamed the photographer. There was so much flashing I felt somewhat blinded as they took countless photos of me. Some scenes had me on the beach holding a volleyball, some had me lounging on a chair. For one incredibly weird scene, they had me hold up several fruits on my head for hours. Later, while we were drinking iced tea on the beach, the other girls admitted to me that the fruit pictures would never be used, and that was just a part of a hazing ritual. I soon found myself getting tired and asked, when are we going home?" "Going home?" Angela chuckled as the other girls all burst out laughing. "There's no home anymore," she said, and I finally started to understand the gravity of the situation. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. They finally took my ball and chain off. In the time I spent as a model, I learned to hustle. I learned to play the game and how to flirt my way out of many a tricky situation. I worked and worked and worked some more until I had become the premier model in the agency. I spent days in luxurious locations all over the world, on yachts, villas, and islands beyond my wildest dreams. I could never have imagined that people could live in such luxury. It was on one of these tropical island villas that I met Mark. He was a tall, handsome man with freckles and a dazzling smile. I told him all about how my mother had accidentally sold me to this modeling agency. She what?" he asked, surprised. "How could a mother do that to their own child? Have you spoken to any lawyer?" he asked, stunned that something like this could happen in the modern world. "It's standard practice for our agency, I'm afraid," I said, telling him about each of my sisters and everything I had learned and seen in my travels. He seemed so genuine. I couldn't help but fall head over heels for him. When he asked me if I would stay on the island with him, at first my heart jumped. But then I realized that since I was technically speaking the agency's property, I couldn't just decide to up and leave. And for obvious reasons, Luzano declined my request to stay behind on the island. I was gutted, about to get on the plane back to civilization when Mark's lawyer appeared. "Excuse me," he acknowledged everyone and said, "I would like to bring your attention to Sub-Article 12D, where it states the contract is only enforceable in the United States of America, and as we are currently not there, Mandy is of legal age to make her own decision about whether she wants to stay here or go back home," he continued. Luzano's face twisted into a grimace at this loophole that was brought to his attention, and he knew it was all over. I casually strolled over to Mark as I stuck out my tongue at Luzano and leaned into Mark's embrace. "I have one more request, Marky," I purred to him. "Could my sisters also stay?" I asked, referring to the girls who were huddled together and whose eyes lit up at the news that they could leave their lives at the agency behind. "The more the weirder, but hey, I'm no stranger to weird things," he said. My sisters all rejoiced at this and ran over to form a giant big group hug. Mark's lawyer informed Luzano that he should be on his way as he was overstaying his welcome and that he was officially trespassing on private property. I was finally happy and able to live my life the way I wanted to, without restraints, photo shoots, or agents breathing down my neck. We were all free. The only thing I still regretted was not being able to get even with my mother. About a month later, we were all lounging by the pool when Mark arrived. He said that he had just returned from a business trip and had closed a lot of great deals while in the U.S. "I think you're going to be especially happy with this gift I brought back," He beamed in my direction. From behind Mark, my mother emerged dressed in full servant's attire. Apparently, to teach my mother a lesson, Mark had his lawyer draw up a contract with plenty of confusing legalese in fine print to trick my mother into advertently becoming the lowest-ranking member of the cleaning staff on the island. She thought she won some sort of prize and was going on an all-expenses-paid holiday. I smiled at Mark, I kissed him and said thanks. And to my mother, I gave an evil, satisfied grin.